All right. Hi, everybody. Really appreciate you coming out today. This is awesome. We got a lot of information to cover and a couple incredibly important things that is going to allow you to help us secure your network, secure your people, keep your dollars safe, your client information safe, all that information. First of all, just in case you don't know me, I assume all of you do, but just in case, my name is Cohen Barnes. I'm the president of Sundog. Today, we're going to be talking about, I called it a mandatory meeting, and I'm really trying to make sure we can get in front of all of our clients with this information. But it's about some new critical cybersecurity updates that are out there. I got some real world stories to be able to share with you about what's happening. We're boots on the ground in this stuff, and it's costly and it's disruptive, and it's going to take all of us working together to be as effective as possible. So first, before I start, I am recording this. Mallory is here as part of the Sundog staff. Mallory, can you hear me, see me, and see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. All right, let's get going. Just some housekeeping. If you have a question at all, feel free to submit it at any time, and I'll elaborate a little bit more. And the way you do that is if you move your mouse down to the bottom of your screen, could be the top from some of you, but most likely the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a Q&A button. If you could, go ahead and type in your question there. If I don't see it, Mallory will let me know, and I'll get that question answered for you. So let's get into it. All right. Email, largest threat to an organization right now. And I want to be abundantly clear. I didn't invite anyone except our clients to this. I'm not even trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to do anything except educate you on the threats at the beginning of 2022 have completely changed. And I've got some real stories that I'm going to share with you of Sundog clients of how bad actors are bypassing the security that we have. And what it really comes down to is email and your employees. They're the two things that it's really difficult for us to be able to stop and protect. So strap in, listen, raise your hand by clicking on the Q&A, and we'll get through this. And I think you're going to walk away with some really good information on how, as a partnership, we can work with your organization and your staff to protect your information, your dollars, and your clients. All right. So some of you have seen this presentation. Some of you, it's the first time you've ever seen it. I got to call out, we will do a presentation in front of your staff anytime that you all want. You just got to let us know. You'll schedule it. Most likely to get me because I love presenting in front of people. So if you've seen some of this, bear with me because there's some new stuff you haven't seen. And you need to pay close attention because we're going to talk a lot about it. But I am going to be very quick through a lot of this. And the reason I'm going to be quick through a lot of this is because a lot of you have already seen some of these slides. So 3 goals of a cyber criminal: they're going to take your money, they're going to take your client's money. This has happened as well. And they're going to try and deploy or they're going to try and deploy ransomware, and they're going to extort some money out of you by encrypting all your data. And we'll cover that in a second. Scary stats, I always like calling it out just in case you've had your head buried in the sand and you don't realize what's going on out there right now. But us, small businesses in the United States, are being singularly targeted at such a high rate that they're coming after us. They're getting tons of money out of us, and it's turning into a multi-billion-dollar business for these cyber criminals. I'm not going to read every one of these. You can see them out there, but they're saying ransomware generates an estimated 1.1 or 1.1 billion in revenue every single solitary year, and almost 10% of the American population has been hit by it. Let that sink in. Almost 10%, right? Every 40 seconds, a business is getting hit by this, and we're seeing it firsthand. We get this all the time. Well, I haven't heard about it. They're not going to come after me. The reason you don't hear about it is private companies don't disclose it. I'm telling you firsthand, we worked with a couple of our clients and then a ton of prospects that have come to us to make sure it doesn't happen again. This is happening everywhere right now, and it's costing people tens of thousands of dollars every single solitary time. What we do here is government, but ultimately the reason you don't hear about it is it's embarrassing, could be reputation damage, all those things that make someone realize they're not going to actually disclose what transpired. But government mandatory reporters you do hear from. So imagine this. This isn't government being targeted, right? They're just the only ones that have to report this. So check this out. If you don't remember, Rockford Public Schools hit by ransomware, weeks they were taking attendance manually. Crystal Lake Public Schools hit, City of Belvedere hit, DeKalb County government hit, Sycamore Public Schools hit. You name it, it's happening on a local level on the regular. National stage, we all remember Colonial Pipeline. There was gas shortages on the East Coast. JBS, major meat producer, was actually affecting meat supplies in our grocery stores, almost the way that we would actually consume our dinners, our lunches, all that fast food chains. Cyber criminals attacking them. And what's interesting is the same method they use for the big boys is the same method they use for you and I, because it's not a person doing this. It's a person that is initiating a piece of software to go out and find vulnerabilities. So the same ones that got JBS, they might be getting one of you for $30,000 and they're just as happy. They'd love to get more JBSs, but they're indiscriminate on the size of organization that they actually go after. All right, small organizations. I always call this out. Largest ransomware attack on small businesses in the history of mankind was not this July 4th, but the last July 4th in 2021. Never made national news. I had to dig around and find an article with it on CNN. I knew about it, obviously, because I had heard about it through all my peers in the industry. But this is happening on the regular. And again, I'm going to share some specific stories with you on what's been transpiring locally, and more importantly, making you aware of the threats that are out there and some key things that I need you to do that I can't do in order to protect your organization from this stuff. All right, email threats identified. So I'm going to show you really quick how they go about doing this. Some fake links to portals, some malicious software, and then infected attachments. And hey, if I'm talking too fast, I get accused of that sometimes. Feel free to put in the Q&A also. Slow down, Cohen. Again, I'm just trying to cram as much information in a short period of time for you all. All right. First, I want to call out, I said email is the #1 threat out there, and you need to understand how this works. And I think that's important. So they call it phishing. I bet most of you have some understanding at some level of what phishing is, but really quick, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. Phishing, and it's affectionately called that, is no different than a regular fisherman, a regular angler, right? Lure on a line, on a rod, cast the lure out into the lake, reels it in, lure goes by one fish. That fish is like, I'm stuffed, I'm not hungry, I'm gonna let it go by. Another one looks at it and says, that's fake. Third one looks at it and says, I'm starving, that looks real, I'm gonna bite, and bites. Same thing here. What they do is they send out an email to tens of thousands of email addresses, hoping they get a handful of fish to bite, and they will. And you all should know, and if you don't know, I need you to ask your account manager when they do their either monthly check-in or we do our technology business review with you about the status of your latest phishing attempt or phishing simulation that we do. What that means is every single solitary quarter, so every 3 months, we are reaching out to all the users in your organization and we're sending them a phishing email, a fake email, to see if they click. And it's disturbing, even though I get it, but it's disturbing how many end users continue to click on emails that are not the original source. They're not from Amazon, they're not from Microsoft. This happens on the regular. And the reason why we do these tests is to be able to notify you all that, hey, you've got some people out there that are still clicking. We need to do training. And that training, like I said, I'm offering, we can come on site and do that. We can do a custom webinar for you and your team, or you need to let your account managers know, or you can email me directly too. If you just want some custom webinars that you really believe you'll send out to your staff and have them consume, you have to let me know. I will create whatever you need in order to educate your end users to be more sophisticated when it comes to these particular attacks. That's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for. And that's what I want to do. All right. So phishing, emails go out. You may ask, like, how did they get my email? Really quick, you've all heard of like LinkedIn gets hacked, Target gets hacked, everyone, Microsoft, Cisco, no one is beyond reproach when it comes to have they been compromised or not. And what happens is the hacker will log in and steal, let's just say 10,000 username and passwords for, we'll just use LinkedIn. And what they do is they take those 10,000 username and passwords, they go over to the dark web. It's like a black market eBay out there. And they say, I have 10,000 username and passwords, make me an offer. People all over the world will pay them money to get those. Why? They'll take those 10,000 email addresses and passwords, and what they'll do is they'll put them into a piece of software. That's why I'm saying it's indiscriminate who they go after. And that software will email out a fake email to every one of those 10,000 and try and trick them into clicking on something and downloading something. But what they'll also do is they'll take those 10,000 email addresses and passwords, and they'll try every online portal in their database, and the database is vast. So imagine that LinkedIn username and password, your email address and the password you use, they're going to try it on Yelp. They're going to try it on Amazon. They're going to try it on First National Bank. They're going to try it on Chase. They're going to try it on Intuit and Quicken. They're going to try it on Microsoft 365. And you all know, and I know there's some people on this webinar right now that are guilty of it. You are using the same username and password on one account, and you're doing it on another account. And that's what they're hoping for. They got it over here on LinkedIn. They're hoping you use that same email address and password for your Microsoft 365 account. And that's how they get in. So realize, again, it's not an individual targeting you. It doesn't matter if you're 10 employees or 100 employees. They'll come at you the same way, and it's software trying to do that. Okay. Let me show you some things real quick. I keep this graphic around because I absolutely love it. I remember this when it came around. So imagine you get a phishing email, right? And it says, hey, there's a problem with your account. Your Chase account has been compromised. Now, again, you send it out to 10,000. How many of those have a Chase account? Let's just say 10% maybe. So that's 1,000 emails that are going to, 1,000 people that are going to get an email from Chase saying there's a problem with their account. Imagine 10% of those bite. It's 100 people, right? 100 people are going to get it. They're going to click on the link to log in because they want to check out, oh, I need to reset my password. And they click on it and they get presented with what they're used to is, this is Chase's official mobile site. This was the hacker's site, right? Looks exactly the same. Someone's going to put in a username and password, doesn't work. They're going to try it again, doesn't work. They're going to try it a third time, it doesn't work. They're going to be like, all right, when I get home, I'm going to make sure I get this taken care of. Well, in the process, we just gave our username and password to the hacker. While you're finishing out your workday and going home to log in to find out what's going on, they've been busy transferring funds out of your account, right? Could be your business account as well. They'll also do what's called social engineering. These are really smart people. And it's not just individuals. These are crime syndicates. These are large organizations. These are large organizations that are almost enterprise organizations. They have tons of staff, CFOs, right? CTOs. They've got help desk teams. They've got everything. They got people thinking about how are they going to get you to click on something and download their payload, and how are they going to be able to steal money out of you. And they know they're going to prey upon human nature. And right now is a perfect time. It's Christmas time. I bet if all of you were in front of me right now and I asked how many ordered a Christmas present on Amazon, I bet 3/4 of the room would raise their hand. And that's what they're going to do here. They're going to send out an email from Amazon saying there's a problem with your account. Click here. When you click, what that ultimately is going to do is maybe it'll download something malicious to your computer, which is a bad thing, could be ransomware, or they just want your username and password. They're going to trick you to try and put it into a fake Amazon portal. Again, why do they want that? Because they're going to try it on everything else that's out there. And chances are your Amazon username and password you use for your home bank account, your work bank account, whatever it might be. So that's social engineering, because Christmas time, the last thing any of us want is our package doesn't get delivered on time and little Susie doesn't get her package, right? Who wants those tears? And so it's going to allow us to drop our guard and react really quick. And that's what they're awesome at. And these emails get more and more sophisticated, preying on our good nature, right? And I'm going to show you how to detect some of these. Fakes the malicious software. OneDrive is a perfect example. A lot of people get files shared from them from somewhere else on OneDrive, but I got a better story for you. And I almost got phished personally. Full disclosure, right? I was in a process of, I was signing DocuSign document after DocuSign document. If you don't know what DocuSign is, it's a way to sign documents electronically so you don't have to do transactions in person. And I was getting hit by these. An email came in, phishing email, right? Just so happened they sent out a phishing email. Just so happened it was about DocuSign. There's a document I needed to sign, because a lot of this is timing too. So here I am, I'm used to it. Another email comes in, DocuSign. I swear my mouse went over and I just paused. And when I realized what was happening, This was not from the person I was conducting that particular transaction with. This was from a malicious actor trying to get me to click on that sign the DocuSign document and either reveal my credentials or download a malicious payload. Fantastic thing. So all of you everyone on here should be a client of ours. This is really important. In Outlook, in the upper right-hand corner, you should have a red button that says report phishing. If you don't, just let us know. There's some Outlook updates that keep happening that might disable that. Super easy to bring it back. But at that point, I will click report phishing, right? Tim Swift, if you know Tim Swift, he's awesome. Tim Swift was by. I'm like, Tim, you got to check out this email. This is one of the best phishing emails I saw. As he's walking over to my desk, I look in my inbox and all of a sudden, whew, it disappeared. The reason it disappeared is because I clicked report phishing. One of my engineers saw that report, identified it as a phishing email, clicked the button, and now it pulled that email out of my inbox, every inbox at Sundog, and more importantly, the thousands of end users we support in Microsoft 365, it pulled it out of everyone's inbox. Because like I said, chances are my email address was part of 10,000 or 100,000 other email addresses. So that feature is really important. We need your employees, when they see a phishing email, not a spam email, like just junk, but a phishing email where they think they're trying to be tricked, they need to click report phishing so we can remove that out of their inbox and everyone else's. But the other point is, ultimately, I almost got tricked. Yeah, Mallory, you got one?
Yes, we have a question. What is the best way to tell that the email from Amazon is not real?
I gotcha. And actually, I got to keep the panelist screen. I'm not sure what all you guys can see. So I'm going to show you that. It's coming up on a slide here really quick, and I'll show you some tricks of the trade. And again, this email went out to all, I'll call it decision makers at all our organizations. I think some of you invited some staff on this, but I'm really talking to decision makers in the organization. Again, you want me to do cybersecurity training? I should say we do it. Let us know, and we will perform that for your entire staff. I did 2 last week alone. Here's the 2 new things that I need everyone to stop whatever you're doing, listen to what I'm saying, and let it absorb. So a great example, 2FA fatigue. We had a client and they have Microsoft 365 and they have 2-factor authentication enabled on every email account. There are some of you on this call that are still fighting us about having 2-factor authentication. I'm telling you right now, if you have email and you don't have 2-factor authentication on your account, it is just a matter of time and you're going to have an incident. And wait till you hear what these mean. But what's important about what I wanted to communicate today is I need you to understand 2FA isn't the end all be all either. Man, time's flying. Okay. 2FA fatigue is, we've all had it probably, where we log into our bank account, they send to our cell phone a 6-digit code that we look at, we type in, and now it allows us to get in. That's second factor. First factor was username and password. Okay, we're in. Second factor, 2-factor authentication, or they refer to it as multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is just a second form or a third form of authentication in order to get in. Mallory, is there a question really quick pertinent to this, or should I keep going?
Keep going. I'm reading through it.
So what we have to realize, and what's happening now, is these bad actors are aware of this, and they call it 2FA fatigue. So they're going to do one of 2 things. One, if they get your username and password into Microsoft 365, they're going to type it in, right? And they're going to hit submit. And what's going to happen? A 2-factor authentication, or it could be your bank account. All of a sudden your cell phone looks. 2-factor authentication fatigue is, you're seeing another form of confirmation. You just hit approve. Because you figure maybe you're on the bank website right now, or maybe you were thinking about it or whatever, but your natural reaction is, whenever you see it, approve, or whenever you see it, you're going to do something, because it's not always put in a 6-digit code. Sometimes it is literally just hit approve, depending on the site. Or what they're going to do, and I know none of you would do this, but your staff are susceptible to this. They're going to send you the 2-factor authentication over and over and over and over and over and over again. And at some point, your staff is going to get so sick of it, they're just going to say, approve. I need this to go away. I'm trying to do my darn job. What they did is, the hacker in China now had the username and password, hit them with 2-factor authentication fatigue. Your staff member approved it. Now they're in. Whatever that might be. It could be a bank site, but most likely it's going to be email. related, right? We had this recently where a user with two-factor authentication got prompted and they approved it. And it was probably, they went to open up Outlook. They were new to two-factor authentication because we've been pushing to enable it, and they enabled it. And they got the response, hey, someone's trying to log in. They figure it's just them, you know, Outlook's just triggering it. So they hit approve and off they went. What the hacker did was, once they were into their account, because now they're acting as them, they set up another form of two-factor authentication. So now whenever the hacker needed to log in, the hacker would choose the 2FA that they wanted, and it would go to the hacker's phone, and they had free reign to their email address. What does that mean? What that means is the hacker was now able to impersonate that particular individual. So imagine that. So the hacker, what they did was go through the inbox, see what's in there, realize, you know what, I can go ahead and impersonate whatever I want because this is a decision maker. So what the hacker did was send a fake invoice to the accounts payable department, right? And they knew who was in accounts payable, and they knew how the process worked because they were looking at this decision maker's email for $47,000. The accounts payable person reached out to the decision maker and said, hey, I've never heard of this vendor before. They were doing a construction project, mind you. So there's a lot of new vendors. I haven't heard of this vendor. Is this okay? The hacker responded back, yes, because the hacker had access to the decision maker's inbox. The decision maker never saw the email because the hacker set up a message rule in Outlook. Anything from the accounts payable person got moved out of the inbox into a subfolder, and the hacker would then reply and delete the email. So the decision maker never saw it. If the accounts payable person emailed them and said, hey, how's your day? Are you ready for Christmas? The hacker would leave that in the would move it back out of that subfolder and move it back to the inbox and mark it as unread. Very, very tricky, very sophisticated, right? So the hacker emailed in the $47,000 invoice. Accounts payable person said, is this right? Hacker, as the decision maker, said yes. The accounts payable person still wasn't comfortable and just said, hey, I want to make sure you're giving me approval to pay this invoice. And the hacker responded as the decision maker, yes, pay it now. And they did. And there's $47,000 gone. There is no level of security ultimately that I can put in that's going to stop something like that. And that's where we need end users being aware. And I'm going to give you some suggestions on how to make that go away in the future. But that's 2FA fatigue. Either you're just so used to it and it's always coming in and you're just approving naturally without thinking about it, or you're getting bombarded and you just want it to go away. But the moral of the story is people need to think before they click, right? All right. Man in the middle is the other one. So what this is imagine the phishing email like from Chase comes. And this is how they bypass two-factor authentication. So regular username and password alone, very, very insecure. You throw two-factor authentication onto your username and password for email, your email account now got 90, 95% secure. But now they're coming up with a way to bypass that. And how they're doing that is, let's go back to that Chase email I was sending you or showed you, right? Imagine phishing email comes in, user, oh, I'm going to put in my username and password because I need to find out what's going on with my package or my online account or my Microsoft 365 account. They put it in, the hacker is in the middle. So the web page that they sent to your staff member, when your staff member puts the username and password, realize the hacker's in the middle, the hacker sees that, oh, goes over to Microsoft 365 or whatever online portal it is, puts in the username and password, awesome. It comes back and says, I need the 6-digit code that just got texted to you, right? So the hacker produces a website, says, all right, now I need your 2FA. Your staff member puts in their 2FA information, hits submit, the hacker gets it, puts it into the site, and they're in. It's literally that simple. And they're doing this all the time, which means two-factor authentication is incredibly important as one of the layers of defense, but it's not the last layer. And we're going to cover some things that you can do to stop it. And I'm getting close. So this is to answer the one question that came up. I wanted to make sure, oops, I covered that. What to look out for? Multiple things. One, a sense of urgency. This is the social engineering part, right? If you're getting email from Chase, like your account's been hacked, you need to change your password right away. Spidey senses should be tingling. That's red flags all over the place because Chase isn't going to do that to you. They may say there's an issue with your account. Please go to chase.com and check it out. And what that means is don't click on chase.com in the email. Actually bring up a web browser on your own, log into chase.com and see if there's any alerts. Chances are there's not going to be. But there's a sense of urgency to the email, right? An unfamiliar address. This still happens. They can bypass this and they can be very tricky, but realize this came from accounts.securitybank@gmail.com. Chase, Microsoft, Intuit, whoever it is, isn't going to send you an email from gmail.com. Also, if they say, dear valued customer, they're sophisticated enough where they can say, dear Cohen, dear Bob, dear Susie, dear Julie, whatever it is. If they're saying, dear valued customer, that's a red flag that they don't know who this person ultimately is. Sorry about that. I'm flying all over the place here. What I want you to pay attention to is you see this www.securitybank.net/info. It could be amazon.com/package. A trick you can do is if you move your mouse and hover over the email, don't click on the link, just hover over it. When you do that and pause, it'll actually show you what the email address, or sorry, what the web address it's going to is. And a lot of times it's not going to be Amazon. It'll be like hackersareus.com. I'm just using that name, but you'll realize that it's not taking me to Amazon. I don't want to click on that. And then the last thing, attachments. I tell people this all the time. If you get sent an email, even from someone you know, because realize if it's coming from someone you know, well, how do you know their email hasn't been hacked, right? So if you ever get an email, no matter who it's from, and it doesn't make sense why someone would be sending you the attachment, don't open it. Just don't open it. Pick up the phone and call them and ask them, hey, and I'm going to show you an example of my insurance agent years ago got hacked and he sent it out as well. And lastly, if it ever says .exe, run, hit delete, report phishing, call Sundog. You need to avoid that email like the plague, basically. So, and this is the email from my insurance agent, right? PDF sent from him. It's not unusual for my insurance agent to send me PDFs of addendums to my insurance, or if I add an additional insured or whatever it might be. This one came out of the blue. I wasn't working with him on anything, but it's from Phil. I know Phil. He sent me attachments before. It's from his email account, but that was a red flag for me. And I reached out to Phil, and sure enough, his email address had been hacked. And the hacker went and sent this email out with an infected attachment to everyone in his sent items and in his contacts. That is the last thing in the world any of us want, from a reputation damage. But can you imagine potential liability? You send an email out or a hacker sends an email out from your account to every one of your clients, and someone gets infected and actually has substantial damages. You can't tell me that there's not going to be some litigation that's going to come back on you at that point, right? So we need to avoid this. So what do they steal? I mentioned the scenario of the 2FA got bypassed, right? But I do want to share another quick story with you. Two quick ones really quick. 11:59, one really quick. Same kind of scenario with another, it was a prospect this time that got compromised. And it was exactly the same thing where the hacker got into the office manager's email account. There was no 2FA at this point, which is an example of why we need 2FA. And they were doing a lot of progress invoicing on a large job with one of their clients. And at one point, the hacker reached out to their client via email and said, hey, because of COVID, we had to change our bank account number and routing number, and here's the updated information. Didn't ask for money at that time, which was brilliant, right? The client responded back, no problem, updated in our system, thanks, because they were doing electronic payments. Why COVID mattered, I don't know, but it worked. Then all what the hacker had to do is go through the office manager's inbox and sent items and found invoices in the past, recreated them in Adobe, made an invoice that looked exactly like the progress invoice that their client was expecting to get for $125,000. And guess what happened? Sent it out to their client paid it. Money's gone. Again, think of the litigation that could revolve around that. We need to avoid this. We need to stop this. But again, we can tell you need to get 2FA, but if you refuse us, there's only so much that we can do. And that's why we have to work together as a partner in protecting your client information, and your money. Last one is ransomware. We just had this, right? It was a new client we were onboarding, and we weren't through the entire onboarding process yet. And their terminal server was exposed to the outside world per client instructions. And Hacker came in and did a brute force attack on that open terminal server and compromised one of the username and passwords there. It was for a third-party vendor who needed access to their network. That third-party vendor by a previous IT company had been added to the domain admin user group, which meant when the hacker had that, they had the keys to the entire network. This is 100 users, 8 locations. This could have been massive. And the hacker started traversing the network and started infecting machines, right? This is happening at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Beautiful thing was our next generation antivirus, which we've talked about with a lot of you, Sentinel-1, was fighting the hacker as they were doing this. And then our persistent foothold scanner, Huntress, another layer of security, saw what was transpiring. And at one point, that software was like, this is getting out of hand. Sentinel-1 can't take care of it. And what it did was it turned on the firewall on every machine and every server across the entire network and locked everybody out of everything. The beautiful part of that is that meant it locked the hacker out. We got all the alerts. We deployed first thing in the morning, and it ended up out of the 100, there were only 4 machines that got ransomware. And we were able to just wipe and reinstall those, and we were able to get the client back up and running. The key thing is, though, there was downtime associated with that. Ultimately, if we're making a recommendation from security, I know we always have to balance doing business and security. Totally get it. We make those same decisions here at Sundog. But if we're making a recommendation, I need you all to really let that sink in. And can we come up with another way that is Sundog approved, that still works for the vendor, still works for your staff in order to protect you, right? Because that could have been one of the worst case scenarios for an organization like that. They could have gotten client data. They could have extorted them for hundreds of thousands of dollars. That could have been absolutely traumatic. So this whole ransomware piece, what it is, if you're not familiar with it, is they deploy some software and they encrypt all the files that are important to you on the network. So every spreadsheet, PowerPoint presentation, Word document, every database that's out there, every QuickBooks file, anything that they know is what a business needs to operate, they encrypt it, and they tell you, you have to pay them X amount of dollars in order to get the key to get all your data back. This is the number one, all those scary stats I showed you in the beginning, that's the number one thing that they're doing. But now we're seeing more and more that hacking into an account, an email account, checking it out and tricking clients or tricking other staff members into doing stuff that is allowing them to gain a lot of dollars in the process. It all comes back to email. Yes, Mallory, go ahead.
We do have a question.
Yeah.
Does using our fingerprint for authentication make sense?
Yeah, so that's another form of that's multi-factor authentication. Absolutely, 100%. The more forms of authentication we have, there's a way to get around everything, but right now the low-hanging fruit is for them to use 2FA fatigue or man in the middle. Now, if you have to use your biometrics to get into your computer, I would recommend enabling that in a second. If it's easy to do and it's not going to cause you a bunch of, and your users, a bunch of additional downtime making that happen, I would highly recommend that you do that. Yes.
And then we,
yep, go ahead.
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
We also have one more, but I'll have you
Yeah.
read through it. If you could answer their question for them.
Oh, sure. Let me move that up real quick.
The first one.
Yeah, phishing simulation rules and create real. Yeah, so this is coming from one of our clients that, you know, it all depends on an individual business and how they want to handle this. But ultimately what it means is, I mentioned that we do phishing tests all the time. Well, we can disclose who clicked on what, right? So we can let you know that ultimately these 3 users need additional training. You can, if you choose to, have where they have to attend additional training, absolutely. But if it happens again and it's a repeatable thing, that might be something you want to address through disciplinary action within your organization. Could be verbals, could be a write-up, you name it. But he's definitely correct that if you have repeat offenders, and we can provide that to you, that's something you need to take up, because as I mentioned, it's your end users, it's your staff that are probably your biggest security threat. We can only do so much. What we have isn't 100%, because end users, your staff, can still bypass a lot of things by just not thinking before they click and clicking on these things. We do have like acceptable use policies and some other policies that are out there if you wanted something as far as a template to be able to work from. But you know what? This is getting so rampant at this point. I bet you could reach out to your local law firm or your law firm that you use, and they probably have a lot of boilerplate templates that you can use as well. But holler if you need anything from us. I'm absolutely happy to provide it. I see another one called the struggle. I assume this is a struggle with my staff, two-factor authentication. You know what? It doesn't matter anymore. You have to have two-factor authentication. We need to make it 100% across everyone, because also I think everyone at this point had their cybersecurity insurance questionnaire come out, right? So the insurance company is asking a bunch of questions about, do you have next generation antivirus? Do you have two-factor authentication on your email? Some of them are 7-8 pages long. Last year, they were asking the questions, no real consequences. This year, we've had multiple clients denied complete coverage if they answered no to anything related to 2FA, especially travelers insurance. It's a hard stop. You answer no to one of these, that's it. We're not covering you. You need to move on. So the point to this is, I can sit here and tell you, you need to enable two-factor authentication all day to be able to protect your client's information and your information and your money. But now insurance companies are saying, if you don't do it, you're done. And this is just the next step. There are more layers that they're going to want. I mean, you all remember, well, not all of you, but some of you remember 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have to worry about any of this. And then we needed antivirus, and then we needed password rotations, and then we needed, this is just another evolution of it. But what I'm trying to communicate to you right now is we are seeing this at a level we've never seen it before. It is a full onslaught against small businesses right now, and it's working. They're getting tens and tens of thousands of dollars in this process. So that's why I need you to help me figure out how we can educate your users to think before they click, whether it's in-person training, whether it's webinars, whether it's tech tip videos. You just tell us and we will produce whatever you need to get in front of your staff, but we need help. We need you and us as a partnership working to protect your information, your client information. Yes, there'll be a recording of this presentation. You're more than welcome to send it out to your staff. I think, well, if you go through our YouTube channel and in the recording that I'll send out to you, we'll have links to our YouTube channel. We've got other comments on this, including little tech tips on how do you report a phishing email, right? How do you use that tool? We've got stuff that will provide you, but I'd really like to do a webinar more geared towards staff, which will have a lot of this in it, but I won't talk as directly to them like I am to you, the decision maker here. But if you feel like this is pertinent for your staff, my gosh, feel free, ship it out as soon as the video comes out, which will probably be later today or early tomorrow morning. We'll have the recording live. All right, really quick. Ransomware, when you see this screen, we're in a world of hurt, because it means a hacker is starting the encryption process on your network. Again, we have a lot of tools and we've seen it firsthand. I couldn't have been prouder. And you may think that sounds crazy, but brute force attack came in on a new client we're onboarding, hackers in the network traversing across their network, and our tools just fought left and right and finally just shut the whole thing down and prevented a major catastrophe. That's pretty cool. I don't want to rely on our tools making that happen. I'd rather just avoid that situation from the beginning. And that's what this plea is. That's why I wanted to make this a mandatory meeting. I need you all to help me. And that's through user education and your education on how bad things are right now. All right. How do you prevent? I know I use this one a lot. I love it. I think it's funny. I always chuckle every time I see it. Doesn't work, obviously. Some of you are taking this approach. I can't tell you how many times I've been in front of you talking about two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication, you have to have it in your email. Yet, majority of your users don't have it because they're old school. They don't want to use their smartphone. They don't. I've heard every excuse. We've got an answer to every one of those excuses. But I need your help making this mandatory to have two-factor authentication on your Microsoft 365 accounts going forward for all staff, all vendors, anyone that has account and access to your network. And you're going to be required to do it if you want insurance company or insurance coverage in the future anyway. All right, real quick, how do you prevent? Think before you click. You all, especially decision makers on this phone, because you have access to bank accounts, you have authority to approve payments. Think before you click. Be leery of every email that comes in front of you. And if you're questioning it, report it as phishing, or pick up the phone and call the person that sent it to you, not the phone number on the email, but the contact information that you have and confirmed what it is. The layered security, that's what we're providing. We're constantly updating our security, and adding more things, tweaking things in order to make sure that we can avoid all these particular issues. A password manager, you're going to hear that from your account managers now. We just aligned with LastPass. It's a really cool password manager that allows you to create unique passwords for every single online portal that you access. And you only need to remember one password in order to gain access to them all. Cool thing is LastPass also has a personal edition. So you can have a business copy that you give out to decision makers or your entire staff, whatever you want to do. And you can have a personal one. The cool thing is, if any of your staff leave the organization, they can take all their personal stuff with them. You get to keep the access to maybe the support portal for your internet access. Maybe it's your ERP vendor that you have a shared account with, right? That they have. You get to keep that information. Yeah, can the password manager be hacked? Absolutely, it can be hacked. Everything can be hacked out there. In fact, that whole 2FA fatigue, I should have pointed that out on that screen. Microsoft, Cisco, and there was another one in there, I can't remember, all got hacked with 2FA. Everything in the world can be hacked. But the analogy, imagine this. Burglar going down your street. Your house has the lights on, the front door is locked, dogs barking, right? And there's an ADT security sign in the front, right? Your neighbor, all the lights are off, no ADT sign, the front door is wide open and no dogs barking. Burglar comes down the street, which house are they going to hit? That's what we're trying to do here. Having a password manager, can it get hacked? Yes. Your email, all your username and passwords can get hacked already. What we're trying to do is make sure that every online portal is secure. So like LastPass has been hacked. But with LastPass, the password vault has never been penetrated by a hacker. So all the passwords have been secure. They might have got in and found out you're a LastPass customer, but they didn't get access to your username and password. That is a better route to go than just blindly having a bunch of the same username and passwords out there. And if LastPass does get compromised, they're going to announce it. And they're going to announce it to every single person, which gives you an opportunity to go in and change all your username and passwords of your most critical accounts. Get a password manager. Absolutely. Two-factor authentication. That's the other one here, right? Two-factor authentication. Can't say it enough. And remember, not just on your Microsoft 365 accounts, your bank accounts, your social media accounts. What a lot of businesses and organizations forget is your Facebook profile for your organization is run by someone. And what that is it's their personal Facebook that you grant administration privileges to your business Facebook account. Well, if they get compromised, right, that hacker can go in and post some malicious content on your site, which would be good. Or everyone that has liked your organization, they can reach out directly as you and try and get them to do something malicious. We don't want that. Here's the last one, checks and balances. That is the biggest takeaway that I need you to walk away with. We have to have a human process when it comes to authentication of or approval of payments. Almost every scenario that we have seen out there where the hacker tricks someone into wiring money, buying tons of gift cards. By the way, you need to tell all your staff, if you ever get an email from anyone in this organization to go to the store and buy gift cards, tell them don't do it. This one happens on the regular. I don't need to go into it. Just remember, gift cards, let your staff know that'll never happen. But we need humans. So if there's a new vendor, if there's a check that or an ACH or a wire that's going to go out with a certain dollar amount, there has to be face-to-face, or I can pick up the cell phone and use the contact information that I have, and I can talk to Steve because I know Steve's voice and get confirmation. We have to bring human beings into the approval process of transactions that involve financial, that involve money. So whatever you have in your organization, and I know a lot of small businesses, you're flexible, you're just paying bills, different people have access to different stuff. You have to add a human element now going forward. I got an amen. That's awesome. Oh yeah, RoboForm is still a password manager I recommend on my list. I love RoboForm. LastPass is what we're going to adopt for our clients and for us as an organization for a variety of reasons. Ultimately, it allows us to share passwords with you and you share passwords with us, which is really cool. But again, going back to checks and balances, human beings add it to your process. You have to protect in case one of your staff is getting tricked from wiring a bunch of money out or tricking your clients out of paying a bunch of money. And ultimately, that's all I got. 2FA fatigue, right? And man in the middle are ways they're bypassing two-factor authentication. We add the human element in there, and that would take care of a lot of the issues that we're seeing, as well as end user training. So next time one of our account managers, whether it's Rich or whether it's Dave, reach out to you and they're doing their check-in, you can ask about training, tell us what you would like to see, and we'll do everything we can to customize training to you and your organization so your employees can help protect your clients' money and your money. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up? I know I went over, I'm sorry for that, just a lot of content to be able to provide. Oh yeah, well, okay, so when the FBI gets involved in ransomware incidents with a private company, they tell companies just pay the ransom, never pay the ransom. If you're our client, we have never, ever in the history of Sundog, anyone ever paid a hacker for anything, period. I'm a vet, you can probably see that. There's enough information out there that terrorist organizations have used some of this as a funding mechanism. I'm a multi-generational veteran, including my son. I'm never going to let that happen. So we'll figure out one way or another, one, to prevent it from happening. And if it did, how we can recover you. But it's going to cause a lot of downtime, a lot of disruption. And that's what I'm trying to recommend and what I'm trying to avoid. Is this really Cohen? Now I'm questioning everything. Yes, this is really me. And when do we sign up? Just talk to your account manager. Again, they're going to be reaching out and talking to you, or you can reach out directly to them, Dave or Rich, or just reach out to your team at sundogit.com if you're not sure, and we'll make that connection for you. All right, beautiful. I'll let you all go. If I don't talk to you and I don't see you, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And again, think before you click. We got to work together to make sure we can protect your information and your clients' information. Take care, everybody. And end.